This is a book review of the Phoenix Project. You'll find the Phoenix Project on recommended reading lists for software developers, data engineers, and technology managers. It tells a story of an IT project spiraling out of control, a story that may feel uncomfortably familiar. So, should you invest your leisure time in reading fictional depictions of software or data disasters after a hard day at work? This review will help you decide. The book follows Bill Palmer, who was suddenly promoted to Vice President of IT Operations at a company called Parts Unlimited. Corporate survival depends on a critical initiative called the Phoenix Project, and Bill is thrown into the deep end. Unfortunately for Bill, everything goes wrong. Payroll crashes on his first day. Things get worse when the rollout of the Phoenix Project results in customers being triple charged. Bill discovers that his new department is plagued with chaotic change management, unplanned firefighting, and conflicting priorities. Sound familiar? Oh yeah. As Bill investigates the issues, we meet other key players you may recognize from your own workplace. The same types who can make or break any project. Most of us have known Brent, the key resource who is needed for every fix. Each solution resides solely in his head. Chris, the head of software, may also be familiar. He commits to unrealistic delivery dates that make everybody else scramble to make shortcuts. You are less likely to have encountered an Eric, the cryptic consultant who mysteriously appears at Bill's elbow from time to time to steer the narrative. Count yourself fortunate. Eric has all the answers, but prefers to let Bill flounder and the systems fail as Bill tries to figure things out for himself. This reminds me of the old joke about the Lord of the Rings. Why didn't Gandalf just have the giant eagles fly Frodo to Mount Doom to destroy the ring? No need for that perilous trek through Middle-earth. Similarly, why didn't Eric tell Bill straight up about the 4 types of work, the theory of constraints, and the 3 ways? Well, if he had, this would have been a much shorter novel. It's not quite the size of The Lord of the Rings, Part 1, 2, and 3. In fact, it's a relatively short read, but it would have been 3 to 4 pages if Eric had got straight to the point. Where's the fun in that? The heart of the Phoenix Project lies in a most unexpected place, the factory belonging to the company. To repeated visits with Eric, Bill watches automotive parts flow to the assembly line. He begins to see parallels with software development. This is really what the book is all about. It aims to teach IT professionals about the principles that underpin DevOps. Those principles originated in the post-war Japanese car industry when Toyota developed practices around efficiency and just-in-time logistics. Total Quality Management, or TQM, emerged in the 1980s with lean manufacturing in the 1990s. If you're wondering what manufacturing has to do with IT and software development, these movements were a direct influence on Scrum and Agile, and ultimately, they shaped the foundation of modern DevOps practices. Here's a confession. I didn't get one part of this book. I didn't get the 3 ways. The Phoenix Project aims to present the 3 ways as foundational principles of DevOps. I know this because the afterword of the book told me so. Unfortunately, I couldn't decipher them when reading the novel itself. My problem? The ways aren't presented in order, and their explanations are scattered throughout the narrative. At one point, Eric congratulates Bill for mastering the 3rd way, and I found myself scrolling back 2 pages thinking, did I skip the 2nd way? But I don't think so. I think the 2nd way is presented after the first mention of the 3rd. Confused? Yeah, I was, as was Bill. I tracked down some other articles by the authors that explain these 3 ways more clearly. You'll find a fuller explanation in my book review. Link is in the description below. For me, the best thing about the Phoenix Project was the insight that I got about bottlenecks. That has had me coming back for several rereads. In the narrative, Eric refers to these as constraints. When I was reading the book for the first time, I was grappling with several bottlenecks hampering the smooth delivery of a data engineering project I managed. One was key person risk in modern parlance. In the Phoenix Project, it's the Brent problem. Parts Unlimited have a problem where one engineer, Brent, has all the knowledge and expertise that puts him simultaneously on every critical path of a multifaceted project. My 20 plus years of experience made that all too credible. I recognized many of the scenes that unfolded as Brent is pulled from one crisis to another. I was fascinated as Bill slowly evolved methods to solve his Brent problem, such as documenting Brent's knowledge, requiring others to shadow Brent's critical work, and creating approval workflows to protect Brent's time. Most of the action points would work outside the pages of a novel, and I've implemented many myself, although I did raise my eyebrows as Brent was compared to the heat treating oven on the factory floor, the constraint that was slowing the entire assembly line. The combined efforts of several managers to put systems around Brent to keep him productive didn't seem to, well, involve Brent, his opinion, or his wishes. I think there's a lot to learn from this novel about project management, but a bit less about people management. When I was reading the book, the second bottleneck I was grappling with at the time was getting early visibility on requirements for new features. A particular business unit would have no feature requests for months and then drop a pile of urgent must-haves at short notice. This feast or famine pattern wrecked our capacity planning and created artificial emergency. Why was the planning so haphazard? Something was gumming up the left to right flow of work from the business through to us and on to the customer. And right at that time, I was reading the Phoenix Project's depiction of poor software delivery practices being like bottlenecks on the factory floor. Of course, I sat up and took notice. I underlined passages of the book and stared intently into space, seeing my own team's challenges reflected in Part's unlimited struggles. There are several sections in the book where Bill feels he is close to grasping Eric's cryptic utterances, but isn't quite there yet. And I quote Bill: I debate with myself whether I'm on the verge of some large and meaningful insight. It was me reading parts of the Phoenix Project. Alas, I finished it without Bill's final aha moments of clarity. But the novel sent me on an interesting journey to the material that had inspired the author. I'll touch upon the older works that inspired this book a little bit more in my written review, but let me move on to my final question. Should you read this book? I'm going to say yes. Read this book, but with one caveat. Only if you don't hate your work. If you've been beaten down by years of chaotic management, horrible deadlines, toxic office politicking, system outages, death march deliveries, if that's what you're facing day in, day out, don't go home and read this book. It's too like your life. But you may be like me, and probably most of us in the industry, where you've working on relatively well managed projects, punctuated by the occasional horror show. So I could read the book and chuckle wryly at passages of stress and strain for Bill and his colleagues that I've felt myself. I've been there, but I moved on. Even the best of projects can have aspects of Brent's knowledge bottleneck or an ambitious stakeholder who overpromises when the going is good and deflects blame when it's not so good. I enjoyed the drama when I was reading it, while reminding myself to avoid ending up in a similar narrative. And perhaps that's the greatest value of the Phoenix Project. It shows you the patterns to recognize before you're too deep in the chaos to escape. If you'd like to read the written version of this review, which is a little bit longer, there's a link in the description below. And if I've convinced you to go buy the book, there's also a link that you can use to get it online.